What is not illegal but would definitely get the cops' attention? Filming a fake bank robbery at my mom's office in high school. She worked for a little company and her office was in an old Federal Reserve building, so there were still teller windows and vaults. She told us definitely don't go outside looking like bank robbers, but you know me, I'm an artist with a vision and have to tell my story my way, and that story included a grand exit running out of the bank to a getaway vehicle on a busy street. Everyone still wearing masks, gloves, and wielding very realistic pellet weapons. Turns out most people didn't know it was not a bank. The cops that showed up before we had time for a second take certainly didn't, which is why we were literally surrounded by a literal SWAT team. Like 15 cops, armed for bear, assembled and ready for a standoff within maybe 7 minutes. We never heard them arrive. It was just 1 minute we're filming, the next minute we're about to be fired. My friend in the getaway car was in the parking lot waiting for my signal and suddenly was told, "Don't move or I'll end you. Turn the car off and put your hands on the wheel." The cops were actually really relieved when they found out it was just a student film. Most of them laughed about it, actually. I'll tell you who didn't laugh. It was my mother when she looked up from a game of solitaire to see me walking back inside with 3 officers in tow. Long story short, notify cops before staging a bank robbery, and if you ever plan on actually robbing a bank, don't. You're not going to succeed. Fun fact actually, in the USA, statistics show a majority of bank robbers succeed in their first robbery but are caught by like their fourth one. Story 2. When I was a kid, my dad was a police commander. We drove past a store and some guy sprints out the front door and runs down the street holding a 32 pack of cans. He doesn't stop him, so I say, "Hey, he probably stole those beers." To which my dad replies, "Running down the street isn't probable cause." Sure enough, the dude did in fact steal the cans. Not even 1 week later, at the same store, another dude comes sprinting out the front door with a 32 pack of beer cans. This time, my dad stops him. Dude didn't steal anything. He even supplied a receipt. Next day at school, one of my friends says, "Hey, your dad stopped my dad because he thought he stole some cans. What's with that?" "Sorry, Dad." Oh, his dad was a legit cop. Solid standpoint to have, at least. Story 3. Walking near a protest wearing a hoodie, apparently. The cop showed up from nowhere, asked where I was going. "I'm going to buy a falafel," I said. They didn't believe me and searched me. Found some old smoke bombs and a water bottle buried in my backpack. It's not even illegal to own smoke bombs here. I told them that they could take them. I didn't care. I was hungry and had zero plans for going to the protest. They didn't listen. They put me in the cop car and drove for 20 minutes before leaving me stranded at an abandoned mine. Oh, and they called my parents and made up some BS. Dad was angry when I came home. Took me over 1 hour to find my way back from the mine. And by the time I had arrived at the falafel place, they had closed. At the police, "You owe me a falafel and a new water bottle." They took it because you can throw this at someone. Bruh, I can also drink water from it. It's been 7 years and I'm still super mad over this. Imagine the cop car ride soundtrack, like Bad Boys playing in the background as he's just over there thinking, "Man, I just wanted some falafel." Story 4. Once upon a time, I was living in a punk house. A few housemates and I were standing in the backyard one afternoon drinking and, to the best of my recollection, throwing trash on top of an unpleasant neighbor's garage while we made tinfoil hats for fun. But that's not where the cops come into the story. So, while we're out there, we hear the door to the third floor balcony open. Out onto the tiny deck steps out our housemate, Victor. Victor is a force of nature. He's about 6'3" and built like a keg. The guy typically had a bright green mohawk and, to paraphrase Sin City, just looked like he had been more comfortable swinging a battle axe on some ancient battlefield. And that said, he's one of the most fiercely loyal and sweetest people I've ever met. So he draws himself up to full stature on the balcony. He's wearing his filthy, faded aquamarine bathrobe and a tinfoil hat in the style of a French bicorn a la Napoleon. He's also got his hand tucked into the robe in a classic Napoleon pose as well. Furthermore, to this outfit, the arm of the bathrobe is torn, revealing his arm, which is healing, but also torn in the same spot. He'd picked that a particularly gruesome wound, which became a particularly gruesome scar. Mission accomplished. One hand still placed in his robe, he lifts his other hand into a finger pointing to the sky, as if he's about to make a great speech of some kind. He steps forward slightly with all of our intention and then immediately retches from the balcony. About 10 minutes later, he's down in the backyard mounting his bicycle because he's got to head to work. Still wearing the bathrobe, still wearing the tinfoil Napoleon hat, still looking stupid and now smelling subtly a wretch. He's got a handheld chainsaw that he is attached to his belt because evidently the owner of the bar where he works as a bouncer asked him to help remove an old stump on the property. He somehow managed to balance all of that on the bike and off he went. I have only his recollection to go on from this point, but the way he tells the story, on the way to the bar, he was waiting in traffic next to not just one, but between two patrol cars of cops. All four cops are just staring him up and down, trying to figure out if this monster before them represents some kind of crime. The light changes and he's moving down the street again. In his words, I think the cops decided that it was just easier to believe they were having some kind of fever dream than accept what their eyes were telling them. Story 5. When I lived in Oregon in the 1990s, there was a shopping mall that had signs up at every entrance saying, "This mall is for legitimate shopping purposes only. Loitering is not allowed." The signs went up because there were quite a few teens who would come in to just hang out. The mall owners went so far as to task their security guards to stop anyone without any bags while leaving. They were not satisfied with the security guards, so that task was handed off to the sheriff's deputies with the expectation that people who came in and didn't buy something would be arrested for loitering. It worked too. They started arresting anyone who left without a receipt that showed they bought something, or if they could prove they worked in the mall. This ended up closing down the arcade because you couldn't get a receipt there for anything. And so, especially young people, they just stopped going. They never bothered stopping the mall walkers though because they were obviously older. They weren't who the mall wanted to get rid of. The mall went quiet because people who browse are people who will eventually buy. They made the place so unwelcome they ended up stopping the income of all the shops. Story 6. Looking at a cop's weapon. I was standing in line at a gas station waiting to pay for my gas, and a cop was there off to the side at the end of the counter filling out something the clerk gave him. I assume it was a gas sign-in sheet for getting gas for his patrol car. I was so bored, so I looked at the cop's holstered weapon trying to figure out what kind it was. I looked up and he was giving me the stink eye. I smiled and then stepped up to pay for my gas. He quickly left. I thought nothing of it. Then I get out of my vehicle, get in and drive to the parking lot's entrance to get back on the highway. I look left, then right to make sure I could pull out, and I saw the cop in his cruiser at the other entrance to the gas station just waiting there. Then I think, oh no, he's going to go for me. I wait for a second for him to pull out and he doesn't, so I pull out and watch in the rearview mirror and he pulls out following me. He oddly stays back and slows down. There's a spot right outside of town that has a reduced speed limit that a lot of cops get people at. I know this, so I make sure to stay under. He's way, way back behind me now as I enter the reduced area and bam, he hits me with radar. I had a radar detector that detects instant on radar hits. I knew it. I knew he was after me. So when I got over the hill, I stomped on the gas and took the first left road and took off. Then I took another road. I guess I lost him because I never saw him again. I took the back way home. Story 7. So these are the opposite of the post, but are harmless and will get you pulled over in California. Literally anything hanging from your rear view mirror. What's funny about this is that if you have both side view mirrors intact, you don't legally even need a rear view mirror. Any, and I mean any tint on your front driver and passenger window. Headlights lower than like 22 inches. Rear window stickers that impede sight, but at the same time, you can have your rear window painted black as long as you have both side view mirrors intact. Red, blue, or amber bug guards, shields on your hood. I learned all this in the police academy for reasons to pull over a suspicious vehicle as a PC. Example, I just have to reasonably assume the headlights are too low. Now you're pulled over and I'm searching your car with some stupid probable cause. Story 8. Having a weapon. Before you start with, in my state, in your state, you can still have a weapon with a carry permit, and I don't even have to ask what state you're in to say that. The point is that the existence of a weapon should not be an automatic "that's illegal" to a cop, but to many of them it is. You also can't drive a car without a license, but they don't assume you lack a license and immediately pull over every single person just to check for a license. Also, it's against the law in most states for cops to see you carrying a weapon and use that as a reason to suspect you enough to ask for your permit in the first place. And no, I don't carry, and I think the schmucks who carry big weapons into restaurants should be taken because it's valid to say you thought they were going to end you in today's climate. But the point is, it's not illegal, but cops absolutely use it as an excuse with certain people, and we all know what I'm saying. Story 9. Oh man, this one triggered a memory. I was maybe 19, living on the outskirts of the city, and it was a Tuesday night. No wind, tons of rain. I thought, hell yeah, I love this weather. I'm just going to go to Tim's and get me some hot chocolate, so I did. And here's where it gets spicy. Back then, I was a tiny thing, like zero muscle mass, nothing. So I used to carry a small weapon in my pocket just in case. And I'm walking down the highway in the rain with my little umbrella 2 a.m. on a Tuesday night, technically Wednesday morning, I guess. And I hear a car start slowing down to pull up behind me, and I think, oh, no way, I'm not going to be taken away. I had my hand on the weapon ready to get nasty when the lights started going blue and red. It was a cop. My mind blank, my fingers would not release the weapon in my pocket. Cop asks where I'm going. I say Tim's, I want hot chocolate. She asks if I'm coming from a party, if I'd been drinking. No, I am not. She asks where I live, and I point behind me and say that way. She gives me the most incredulous, bro, what look? So I backtrack and say I live with my aunt Kate, Katrina. The look does not disappear, lol. So she asks me for my ID. I give her my whole wallet. I'd never felt more stupid than in those moments. After she gives me my wallet back, she tells me to stay out of trouble. I say I'll do. I still don't know how I wasn't arrested that night, between almost pulling a weapon on a cop, super illegal, to messing up saying where I live like 5 times in a row, which is fair because I only moved there a week prior. I didn't know my civic by heart yet. I chalk it up to my guardian angel looking out for my stupid self. I'm much more chill around cops now, but that was my first encounter with one on my own. Story 10. When I was like 14, we were walking home from school. A cop slowed down when I was driving past, and then I looked at them, and upon looking, I noticed they were looking at me, which made me stare, which made them stare. They turned around and asked what was up and why I was being sketchy. I said I noticed you staring at us, and he blamed me for looking first. Later that day, we were off playing street hockey a few blocks away at a church parking lot. I tripped my friend while playing goalie, and he fell on his side and landed on his elbow. We went to the ambulance that usually parks in the parking lot, not because of us, and asked for help since we thought it might be broken. As he's getting looked at and such, a cop pulls in, and it was that same cop from before. When asked what happened, everyone looked at me. Story 11. Just food for thought. Cops are not lawyers. For most common issues, they know what is legal and what isn't. However, it's not just possible to only study 4 or 21 weeks and be an expert on all the local and federal laws that they have to enforce. For example, just rules of the road laws alone for Washington state are 122 pages of laws, and that's just one chapter out of 50 for motor vehicles. Full list for those interested. And that's pretty dense material too. Add the local municipal laws, which are just as many laws, and that's just for vehicles again. You've got thousands upon thousands of additional pages of laws regarding the use of force, civilian and officer legal rights, probable cause, etc. Officers can't possibly know all the laws with 21 weeks of training. Consider that an average student takes 15 credits per college semester, adding in 2 hours of study per credit. That comes out to 945 hours. The average officer training requirement is 840 hours. They studied law, enforcement, how to subdue someone, and how and when to use force for less than a college semester. How competent were you in your field of study after your first semester at college, right? That doesn't make me feel very confident in the average new recruit either. Story 12. So, we were about halfway through a mission one time and things were going well. I was sitting at position doing my job, having a good time. The crew was working well together and we were looking forward to getting back to base. So I'm getting tired and busy, so for the first time, I notice a little flash out of the corner of my eye. I think nothing of it. Head down, still working, I see it again. Now this is getting kind of annoying. I'm distracted by this flashing light that I keep seeing, but I keep working. Flash. What the heck? I look over at the officer that is sitting near me. He's head down, working away. I notice there are lots of lights and things in his position that could be causing this annoying little flash of light. I get back to work and ignore it. I think to myself, flash. All right, I'm going to figure out what this is and cover it up. So I sit there and I watch the officer's position to see if I can identify the source of my annoyance. And that's when I notice about 2 feet above the officer's head, a little dark streak is developing between 2 pieces of equipment. What the heck? That's not supposed to be. Then I see what the little flash has been. Flames poke out between the pieces of equipment. Flames on a plane. Not good. Really not good. I fly on a fairly big plane, so we have about 90,000 pounds of JP-8 jet fuel in the tanks, as well as some liquid oxygen, which the flames are coming out right next to one of the ports to hook up our masks. Now, we have been trained to deal with these situations. We practice them again and again. I can deal with this in a calm manner. I scream like a little girl instead and smack the officer on the back. What the? And he's not happy that I have so rudely interrupted him with a smack on the head. Then I point. He looks up, sees the flames coming out of his position. Being the highly trained military officer that he was, he puts his training to good use. He also screams like a little girl and runs to the other end of the plane. Fire! My position's on fire! As he runs down the aisle, flailing his arms excitedly. So now I'm standing there watching the flames lick out of the equipment. Then the training kicks in. I call the crew on our plane's interphone, inform them of the problem, and reach over and turn off the position. That's the first step. Turn it off and hope the lack of electricity will stop the flames. It doesn't. So I put on my oxygen mask and check everyone else on the interphone to make sure they are on oxygen. We have these great fire extinguishers on the plane that work on any type of fire. It's called the Halon 1211. Great stuff, it'll put it right out. But you have to remember that while halon won't end you, when it mixes with carbon, such as from burned electrical equipment, it produces chlorine gas. Chlorine gas is bad. It's really bad when you are stuck in a plane at 30,000 feet breathing recycled air. Halon gets applied and the fire is out. We rode the 40 minutes back to base with our oxygen masks on, not really comfortable, but much better than the possibility of breathing chlorine gas. Land without incident and get off the plane. Find out later that if it had burned a little longer, we would have had a big problem because the flames were close to the insulation of the plane. Too bad I was in Saudi and couldn't have a drink after that flight. Story 13. Thankfully, this has only happened once, but walking around a shopping center as someone with cerebral palsy and shoes that I haven't broken in yet, and that was why I was walking around in them. Apparently, I was staggering and appearing intoxicated. Obviously, I began talking and I have a lisp and a bit of a slur to my speech. That really convinced them I wasn't intoxicated. Thankfully, and I'd say coincidentally, but this friend was working at the store daily. The cops are the crazy coincidence in this story. I was able to convince them to talk to the friend who was nearby, who was able to rattle off proof that they knew me, stating my name, address, and DOB, and confirm that I had a disability. They seemed slightly disappointed to let me go. It's only happened once in my life, but it's enough that I get quiet and a little nervous when I'm around police. Story 14. A few years ago, I was working at Walmart overnight. One night, during a break, a small group of us went out to one of the guys' cars. He was into LARPing and had a couple of foam swords in his car. So being a group of youngish guys, we started sword fighting in the parking lot. A little while later, a cop showed up. He said he got called because somebody saw some people sword fighting, LOL. We explained the situation and he stressed that while we didn't do anything wrong, some people were concerned. We told him our break was almost over anyway. He was actually pretty cool about it. I know that doesn't happen often with the police, but this interaction went pretty good. We were left with a story to tell about getting the cops called on us at 2 a.m. for sword fighting in a Walmart parking lot. Story 15. As someone who works for a police department with body and car cameras and the major scrutiny the police are under, including the First Amendment auditors that are going around trying to provoke contact, I can say a lot of these our agency won't stop you for or make contact with you for. Being suspicious is not a crime. Unfortunately, neither is being stupid. When someone calls for anything, we have to send an officer. The axe on the bicycle, they can stop you at night for no lights on the front or back of the bike to make contact, but not the axe. Now, if it was dripping with a red liquid, different story. We have a lot of crazy users and crazy people in our town, just running away when they look at you, not a crime. Making out with a fire hydrant, they will drive right past. Talking to pigeons, they'll laugh and tell us about it, but keep going. Flipping them off, not a crime. Also here, screaming them out, not a crime. Disorderly conduct language is a crime, but someone other than the officer has to take offense to it. We have people call all the time for suspicious things. I've never seen them in the neighborhood before. They don't live here. We send someone, they will drive by and see what the person is doing. They will make contact if it is a crime area or whatever to try and identify them, just in case there are BMVs in the morning. But once again, being quote-unquote suspicious is not a crime. Now, importantly, there is a difference between suspicious and being suspected of a crime. Waving a bag of oregano is suspicion of a crime. Drinking something that looks like you can be intoxicated while driving is suspicion of a crime. And if you are enjoying the video, please don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos just like this. Story 16. Based on the way he responded, asking for directions apparently. He was directing traffic at a roadblock. There had been a car crash or something. I was detouring onto a road in an area I didn't really know, so I pulled over and asked the cop directing traffic, is there a through road to get close to? A close suburb? Just use your phone. So I drive for a while, just following the same road, then pull over and type the address in my phone. Of course, the phone just sends me back to the roadblock. I have to stop and ask again. He was mad. What's wrong with you? I've already gone this over with you. Just use your phone. It just sends me back here. I just want to know if there's a thorough road to suburb. Well, just go down there, the long way around, to get back out. Okay then. Why couldn't he just say that before? Not that it was a huge incident, but you have interactions like this, and then cops wonder why everyone hates them. I work retail. If I spoke to a customer the way he did, I'd get pulled into the manager's office and given a harsh talking to. Why do you gotta be confrontational about a simple question, dude? Story 17. My lane was ending. Instead of getting over immediately, I stayed in it and merged safely into the other lane as mine disappeared. A few seconds later, I see the cop lights behind me, so we pull over. He comes to my window, and the following conversation happens. Cop, are you okay? Me? Yes. Cop, okay, I'm just checking because it looked like you didn't know what you were doing back there. Did you know your lane ended? Me? Yes, I successfully merged with the lane. I used my turn signal and the way was clear. Cop, is this your vehicle? Me, what infraction have I committed or am I free to go? Cop, just a minute. Walks back to his car, didn't even ask for my license, probably just runs my plates and comes back. Okay, ma'am, no ticket tonight, but you need to replace the light around your license plate. See you get it taken care of as soon as possible. We both leave. I got home and looked at the back of my car. All the lights were working. Schmuck. Story 18. Jogging or walking at night. Night shift nurse. I work 3 days a week, so on my off days, I used to jog. I actually prefer night jogging today. There's no way I can miss your headlights coming at me at night, but in the day, I don't know you're coming up behind me with my headphones on. So I would stay on the road and just follow the street lights. Many times a cop would pull over and ask me what I was doing. Once I told them it was never a big deal, but I always got it. Imagine a stranger soaked in sweat running through your neighborhood at 3 a.m. The weirdest part was whenever something would happen, they'd stop to ask me, have you seen a black Prius around here recently? Or, are you the only one you've seen out here? Stuff like that made me eventually decide to get a treadmill. LOL. Story 19. To me and my siblings, they're the fun police. We have our own game, chicken, basically, run in front of traffic, hoping not to get hit. If you get hit, you're out. If you're the slowest, you're still in. We play multiple rounds like a tournament. Me and all of my siblings were playing the final round with me and Al and my brother, and we did it in front of a sheriff. We got torn a new one and told never to do it again. As he was walking away, we started talking smack about him, as teens and preteens do, and it got his attention. And the conversation went something like this. S, sheriff. Jack is me. Alan is my brother. Lisa is my sister. S, walking away after yelling at us. Me, to Alan. God, he's such a baby. Alan, I know, right? S, walking back to us. Do you want to repeat that? Lisa, Jack, don't. Me, whatever, we don't have time for this. S, if you're going to talk about me, do it to my face, not my back. Me, whatever, let's just go home. My siblings get up. S, I'm warning you, say it to my face, I don't care, but don't do it to my back. Lisa, sorry about him, he has a attitude problem. Me, shut up, Lisa, you have a perception problem. S, walks back to the car, and we go home. Story 20. Getting lost. I was riding my motorcycle in Colorado on my reserve gas, about less than half a gallon, trying to figure out how to get to the gas station I could see but wasn't near an exit. I turned off at the next turn, but it ended up being an end that ran into big gates with driveways. There's a street light, so I turn off my bike and pull out my map, paper map from the old days. Up drive these cops, pull in front of me and turn on their high beams. I just pull the map up so I'm not blinded. A bit later, they turn on their blue and red lights. Apparently, the gates were blocking a ski resort, closed for off-season, and they thought I was trying to break in and steal stuff. I just looked at them and asked why someone would rob a resort on a motorcycle. I can't imagine there's a giant pile of money or something. I don't really have much cargo space. They shrugged and said something along the lines of, criminals don't always think ahead. They did give me directions to the gas station, though, and were otherwise very polite. Story 21. Things I have done that have not gotten a cop's attention. Walking down the road barefooted, literally trying to flag a cop down because my car was broke down and I needed to use a phone. Calling them over my ex who was threatening me. I called 911. No one showed up. Running away from a creepy guy on the street who I thought was going to hurt me. I tried to flag down 3 different cops that went past me and none would stop. Calling them about an intoxicated driver who had a baby in the back seat and also pulled a weapon on me and harmed me. I called, said what direction they were heading, followed the car to make sure they wouldn't get away, and the cop set up on the road to watch for him, then just watched him drive away, doing 75 miles an hour, unable to maintain lines, begging for help regarding a mistreating coworker, calling them about my ex who vandalized my car repeatedly, stole from me, and set my house on fire. They did finally come out for the fire, but they charged him with the wrong thing, which is going to cause him to be able to walk in court, and we've been in court for like forever. Checking my car for an oil leak at a gas station in sweatpants and a sweatshirt. Things I have done that have gotten a cop's attention. Literally just walking down through town, driving and following all traffic laws. Checking for an oil leak in my car at a gas station. I was wearing a short dress. Talking loudly to someone on the phone in public. Carrying a legal weapon at 16 when working alone through the night in a sketchy part of town. Pulling into a gas station at 1 a.m. Walking my dog. Carrying groceries to the car. Apparently, it looked like I had something suspicious in my Aldi bags in the Aldi parking lot. Sitting in an empty parking lot for too long, about 15 minutes with permission from the owner of the property. The cop pulled up and started screaming at me and made me leave even though I had permission to be there. He pulled me over a few weeks later for nothing and told me he was just having a bad day. This same cop, who was married, also stalked me for over a year, to the point that I learned his schedule and will not drive through his jurisdiction when he's on duty. He also almost hit me while walking through a Walmart parking lot once because he was flying while texting on his phone. Digging through the trunk of my car outside a store while wearing a sundress. Pulling off to the side of the road to look at a map because I was lost and it was 3 a.m. Cop pulled in behind me and made me and my dog stand outside in the cold for half an hour while he searched my car for evading police. Then he yelled at me and threatened to confiscate a weapon I kept in the door pocket, saying I should have told him it was there, even though I had told him it was there and it was legal for me to have anyway. I could go on and on. Cops are great, LMAO. Story 22. Apparently, driving a beat-up red F-150 at 3:38 a.m. in a white-collar town, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, I worked construction and had a red F-150, like a bad one from 1999, scratched from job sites. My girlfriend at the time got off really late. We both lived with our parents, so I'd visit her from like 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. a few nights a week. Literally, like 7 times over the course of 6 months, I got lit up for no discernible reason, always on a Thursday or Friday night. There was a semi-major road that connected where she lived and where I lived, and there was a bar literally halfway in between her community and mine. Each time, not 60 seconds after I passed the bar, I would get lit up, always completely sober. My dad had the good sense to warn me that I would be profiled in that truck on that trip and to never have any drinks. I was fortunate to have listened. First time, super polite, yes sir, no sir, all that stuff. Third time, officer, this is the third time I've been stopped in 2 months. Seriously, will you all stop bothering me? He looks mildly annoyed that I ask. Fifth time, same cop that pulled me over the first time in a sarcastic voice. Hey, Kevin, what's up, bro? Long time, how been? Getting any? He did not appreciate that at all, made me wait 30 minutes while he ran my license. Seventh time, new officer, woman comes up to my window. I hand her everything. She looks at the license and goes, oh, it's you. Comes back not 90 seconds later, gives me my stuff back and says, have a good night. And that experience opened my eyes. Profiling is very real, and other than blatantly committing a crime within sight of a cop, the easiest way to get a cop's attention is to just look like you don't belong. 20 years, wife and 2 kids later, I still do not trust those guys. There may be some good ones, but it seems like a lot of them are just riding a power trip. Story 23. Speaking from experience, I used to work at a location for a very popular pizza chain. I was 19 and very unmedicated for anxiety, depression, etc. I was trying to cope as best as I could without making I'm gonna end myself jokes all the time. It was actually going pretty well, except I made frustration jokes like I'm gonna commit tax fraud or I'm gonna eat a whole pillow. Well, a cop came into the store because he was following up an incident report that had occurred the week before. I was getting frustrated, as per usual, probably over dropping a utensil or knocking over the cup sauces. I very loudly exclaimed, I'm gonna commit a crime. The cop got my attention and was like, you wanna run that by me again, kiddo? I turned white as a sheet according to him, and he just laughed and assured me he was only joking. He was a real jokester, that one. So, moral of the story, maybe learn other ways to cope with unmedicated mental illness so you don't get embarrassed or worse, arrested if the cop doesn't have a sense of humor like that one did. Story 24. Not sure if this counts, but it definitely got the cops' attention. I had arranged to meet someone at their house. It was a weekday. They were coming home from work during their lunch hour to show me a puppy they were giving away. And we got there a little early. They got there a little late. Me and my wife were in our old station wagon. Like every panel and door were dented. It was multicolored due to rust being patched, and I used whatever paint was lying around. So for about an hour, we were hanging around out the front of this ritzy place, as in acreage surrounded by a 10-foot high brick wall with massive cast iron gates, multiple fancy cars parked in the driveway, speedboats around the side of the house. When the owner turns up, we walk onto the property with them going around the back. Meet the dog, have a play, decided to take him, walk back out to the front with the dog and the owner, hop in our car and start driving home. 15 minutes later, we're getting pulled over by a cop. Wife was driving. I asked her if she was speeding. No, not speeding. Once we pulled over, the cop used a megaphone to tell us to get out of the car. Like, what in the world is going on? As mentioned above, we were in a station wagon. Besides us and the dog, there was nothing in the car, which you could see as it being a station wagon. As we exited the car, we realized that it wasn't just one cop car. We had 3 marked police cars, 2 unmarked cars, a paddy wagon divvy van, a cop on a motorcycle, and a chopper flying over us. Turns out the nosy neighbor next door had called the cops on us. Like I said, the owner was there with us when we were on the property. And this was the day after I discovered my flower pollen allergy. That weekend, we went to a wedding. My wife brought some of the flowers home and put them in our bedroom. That morning, I had woken up with my face swollen so bad I looked like the Elephant Man. And since there was no way I could drive, I didn't have my license on me. So after a lot of talking and explaining a call to the house owner, it was decided that a marked car and an unmarked car would follow us for half an hour and drive more to our house so they could see my license. I have a feeling that the chopper flew along as well, but it was back in 1992, so maybe I don't recall it too well. So yeah, nothing illegal was going on, but we sure got the cops' attention that day. And just to clarify, we are white. Having said that, I can pass myself off as a First Nation Aussie at times. So maybe they thought that? Who knows what those smucks think. Story 25. Filming cops when they arrest someone or you. I'm not talking about the US and the stereotypes there. In Germany, a bunch of cops were filmed arresting an innocent boy with migration background in an unjustified way and got mad at people filming this. Went to court, but court says it's legal. Also, if people demonstrate for climate, clearing woodland, radioactive waste disposal, the police will often use extreme countermeasures, and the media attention is important. Not so long ago, someone got apprehended by cops when he was just asking them questions. They made up BS and apprehended him. That went to court, and the cops involved backed the cop under oath, justifying his actions by making up further BS about the victim. The guy's lawyer was smart to wait out the statements and presented the court with the video evidence, and it hit like a bomb. The lawyer said the court would have believed the cops. Story 26. One time I was collecting bugs on the street, just crouching on the sidewalk, back to the road, rummaging through leaves. My friend stood behind me watching. Suddenly, I hear a car stopping. "What are you doing there?" I, of course, don't turn around because I am busy collecting bugs, duh. I figured whoever the nosy person there was would just, well, go away. My friend stood there for a moment and then answered, "Collecting bugs." Again, silence. "Well, okay, goodbye," and the car drove off. It was the police. They apparently found us quite suspicious since it was a part of the town where you come from time to time, find needles and little plastic bags in the bushes. Story 27. When the neighborhood Karen stops calling the police for everything. Obviously not illegal, but it does make one wonder what she's up to and who's about to get hurt because she decided that she's gonna handle it. Absolutely attracts attention because it's like waiting for the other shoe to drop. Best case, she's on vacation or moved. Second best case, she attempts to handle it. The it in question always being something neither offensive nor illegal that she has a personal dislike of, such as kids playing too loudly, and in her attempt to handle it, she commits a crime in which no one is hurt but she gets to go to jail, which discourages her from both handling things and calling the police. This is the scenario cops fantasize about. I don't care if your neighbor's kids are playing tag in their yard loudly. Sorry, no one wants to play with your grumpy old Karen. I'm going to come out and let the kids play with the lights, siren, and as a cherry on top, the loudspeaker. Story 28. Oh, I forgot about this one until now. We once found a traveling cache similar to a travel bug, but a whole cache that was made out of 4-inch Schedule 40 PVC pipe. It was 4 to 6 inches long with one end sealed with a cap and the other end had a screw plug. I went to Virginia for a business trip and figured that would give it a big jump on location, so I put it in my checked bag. I didn't realize until I got to the airport for my flight there that I had left my driver's license at home. Fortunately, contrary to what people generally believe, you can board a domestic US flight without a photo ID. They just hand search your checked luggage before you are issued your boarding pass. The look on the TSA agent's face as he's unscrewing what looks like a bomb? Story 29. Oh boy, do I have a good one. Friend and I were walking home hammered one night when we decided to stop and whiz in a tiny alley. Of course, a cop would show up, put their lights on us, and ask us what we're doing. I zipped up, pulled out my phone, and opened my geocaching app and turned around and said, "Looking for this damn geocache. Want to give us a hand?" They laughed, said they wanted to make sure we weren't whizzing in alleys, and drove off. Thanks, geocaching. Story 30. A sparring match outdoors had a cop tell me to get out of my city. It was a party and half the people there all trained at the same martial arts school. After a few drinks, we got the brilliant idea to go outside on the grass and do some light sparring at 11:30 p.m. Cop parked at the roller rink across the street rolled up, tried to pester us and got mad when he realized there were no shenanigans afoot. We were all legal drinking age and we were just celebrating a round of promotions after the latest belt test. Story 31. Throwing up a black hoodie on a windy, cold day. I'm white. They had me stop and proceeded to say cars are getting broken into and was why I was stopped. Yeah, I'm sure that what was happening. Then told me to slowly get my ID. I started to get worried as they were acting so aggressively. I slowly reached back, grabbed my wallet, hand them my wallet. As one cop was running my ID, the other told me to empty my pockets. So I did and was told to go home. If flipping up my hoodie on a cold day is suspicious and warrants a stop, I swear they just look for any reason to mess with you. Now I record everything and I don't care if you like it or not, as you are not above the law. Story 32. Breaking into your own apartment. Was out late studying with buddies in college and we leave the library around midnight and drive back to one guy's apartment only to realize he's locked out. We proceeded to lift him up to the second story so he could open an unlocked window. He does have to break the screen to get through though. And this whole time a cop is watching us from the next street over. We obviously noticed him and just continue our breaking and entering. After a few minutes they just drive off without confronting us. Well, if you liked any of these stories, here's more for you. YouTube thinks you're going to love this. I'll catch you in that video.